Hello there. Once this invisible enemy is defeated, which it will be, someone will have to pick up the tab. Firstly, please give this video a like to give my channel a boost, and I'm always uploading new videos, so please do check back daily. Now, the invisible enemy is costing this nation, or more accurately the people of this country, a veritable arm and a leg. With the chair of the Centre for Policy Studies, Michael Spencer, forecasting that the UK will be forced to borrow £300 billion this year, which is twice what the NHS costs us to run. And that extra £300 billion would take the overall UK net debt well above the £2 trillion mark, and that's just this year. And bear in mind that the current level of net debt of £1.8 trillion is already costing the UK in the region of £1 billion a week. I would personally reckon the bill will be much heavier in the end, and not just in financial costs, but also in social cost. Then there's the economic crisis to get to grips with after that, trying to get business off the floor and back into profitable territory once again. Already people are expecting there to be tax breaks for this and tax breaks for that, but all this strips government income away, inevitably meaning more and more borrowing. Add on to that continued social distancing for some and thoroughly bruised incomes that brings with it a reluctance to spend, and you end up with the likes of reduced VAT takes, as well as less spending on those cleaners and hairdressers, for example. Reduced income, reduced spending, reduced tax take. The velocity of money reduced to a snail's pace, but with the public purse still having to pay out at the constant rate it already does. So it looks like that hoped-for V-shaped recovery is now off the table, barring some miracle or other. But for how long can the government pluck the fruit from the magic money tree it found in the garden of number 11 Downing Street before it withers away? How long before the goose says, no more golden eggs? If we want to keep on playing this game of banks borrowing the money it needs on the markets, then someone will have to, at a minimum, pay the debt interest. Then there's the principal capital amount to deal with as well. And as anyone who borrows knows, it is extremely easy to get into debt, but devilishly hard to get out of it. Now, one way that governments reduce the interest effect of its borrowings is by keeping a certain level of inflation going. So to deal with heavy borrowing, it could look to try and engineer low interest rates to keep interest payments down, but keep inflation higher for a time to inflate the debt away. But that will have adverse effects on the money in our pockets, especially those of savers. And the more the government tries to reduce the immediate impact of repaying this debt, the longer it will be strung out and the more expensive it will be. Meaning that it could go on for decades, financially affecting those for whom the invisible enemy is something they read about in their school history lessons. And it also means that our ability to deal with another such shock in the near future could be severely blunted. So it was interesting to see that Ed Conway in The Times, Larry Elliott in The Guardian, and Jeremy Warner in The Telegraph all talking about the option of a wealth tax. Yes, an extra tax, stripping a proportion of assets and money away from anyone who owns them. With Ed Conway saying that a capital levy is the nuclear button of economics, but it might be just what Britain needs now. Larry Elliott reporting the words of Richard Murphy, a professor in political economy at City University in London, and in his piece Elliott says that £174 billion could be raised via a wealth tax, and that the effective tax rate for the wealthiest 10% of the population, once income and wealth were combined, was 18%. less than half the 42% effective tax rate for the bottom 10%. And Jeremy Warner saying that one wealthy acquaintance of his had already braced themselves for a 20% plus confiscation. With talk like this, you'd think that Jeremy Corbyn was running a country, wouldn't you? And funny how this just occurred to these journalists to write about this as a viable option all at about the same time. Now, this sort of thing would be a massive transfer of wealth, almost all of it one assumes having already been taxed when earned or passed on, and it would be transferred from the people that have it into the bowels of the Treasury. And once done, how many more times will it be used to fill the government coffers when required? But who would be deemed to have this wealth that could be stripped away at whim? Those with pension pots. Would the government really do a Gordon Brown? Those who own houses. Would owners end up with a charging order on the house to pay, say, 20% of any sale price to the Treasury? Those with a safety net in their bank or building society, with all accounts being given a haircut. Those who own shares and bonds. How about those who own companies? Big companies. And to be effective, such a move would have to be quick and decisive. No telegraphing the punch, allowing the nimble to duck and dive and place their wealth out of sight. But the politicians involved would know that it was coming, wouldn't they? You know, those Tory politicians. But most importantly, something like this would herald a new era in the power of the UK state. We would also have the problem that every government would spend with abandon, knowing that they or their successor government just needs to press the capital levy reset button once in a while. Who would bother to save in such a place? Who would bother to start a pension in such a place? Who would bother to start a company in such a place? And who would bother to invest in such a place? Would the Tories really consider such a thing? Me, I'd much rather the perpetrators of this atrocity were the ones forced to foot the bills, the Chinese Communist government. Anyway, if you want to hear more from me, please don't forget to subscribe and also press that little bell, or you won't get any notifications. And if you want to see more of me, buy a mug with my mug on it. So, would you be happy with a wealth tax? Please share and comment, and thank you for watching. Please do like and share this video, and also subscribe to my channel. And when subscribing, please do remember to press on the little bell next to the subscribe button. That way you'll get an alert every single time I put up a new video. And thank you very much for watching.